Welcome back to the SoundFreq podcast, episode 5. And today it is my genuine and sincere pleasure to be joined by Ergo Kukke, an incredibly versatile and creative composer and sample designer from Estonia. Ergo creates sound design tools for various different kinds of media and across genres. He's devoted to film and he knows the role of music and sound design extremely well, and focuses heavily on its importance and impact on the audience. Ergo, welcome to the show.
Hi everyone. It's nice to kind of, for the first time, kind of open myself up and show my little space that I have here and where I create my sounds and my crazinesses. And
yeah, fantastic. Yeah,
thank you for having me.
Would you describe your sounds as craziness?
Well, somewhat. I would say yes, because you never know really what to expect from me. I would say that I do whatever I like, because I don't necessarily have any deadlines. There's enough time. I can basically create any sound that I want. So you can kind of never, what to expect from me.
Yeah.
So one moment I can record like I have a microphone here. I can record like creepy sounds that the vocal system makes. And people would ask, why would you record sounds like that? Because in the right setting, for example, imagine you're playing a space game where there are aliens, and I'm really loving the space sounds lately. You would want sounds that would make you sick when you listen to them, that would make you fear or create an atmosphere. So this is the goal. This is why I would record like crazy sounds, what the vocal system makes, or crazy sounds what the synthesizer makes, or just crazy everyday objects. I would record and make them, maybe even if I need to, make them beautiful or make them scary. For example, maybe this is not a good example, but a music box, for example. I'm playing it the wrong way. And music boxes, different versions, you can make them super creepy and also super beautiful. I'm just using this moment just to show my music box.
Oh wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's like super old as well, and it's all wooden down here. And
yeah.
Okay, so but yeah, the sound it makes is really clear and beautiful. So I recorded it. I changed the notes. Basically, did some polyphonic note changing and made it unique. And the future instruments are going to have this, and it's going to be both beautiful and creepy.
How do you achieve both? What if you take something? A music box is a bit of a trope within film. The creepy child coming through the screen, and it's the music box playing really slowly, and there's kind of tension building. But how is there a process you go through where you kind of hear an instrument like a music box or something similar and go, I can make this beautiful this way, and I can make this creepy this way?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. Usually I already have a feel what I'm aiming for. So with this particular thing, I was just I wanted to make it creepy. I wanted to make it beautiful afterwards. So it wasn't like a plan. I'm going to make it creepy and beautiful. It's just the thought process that I just made it creepy. Then I thought, can I make it beautiful as well? So I have both versions of it. Usually I have like one sound in mind, one idea, or actually just a feeling in my mind that I want to kind of just create. So there's, but if you ask me how would I make it beautiful, just, those high-pitched voices, you can basically use like a majoric progression, record it in, or basically sample it up, and then you can record beautiful sounds, and you can make it like glittery. Maybe you can use just filter out the low frequencies and just keep the highs, use delays, and use some kind of relaxing pad underneath, and you can already create a sound that is kind of beautiful and relaxing. But yeah, like you said, you can make this super creepy, like in a setting. For example, in the Alien movies, if I remember correctly, the original Alien movies, they used a piano in space, like, but the point of it was like they're missing home. They're bringing a piece of home with the sound into the movie. Currently, don't really remember how they were actually using it. I would have to listen to, but those are things. So this particular instrument, you can turn it into anything you want, really. Just let your mind go where it wants to go, whatever you feel like currently. It's just
I'm interested in what you describe as being in the moods to create something. You know, as musicians across the world will be familiar with the difficulty of wanting to create something but not feeling like you can, not feeling like you have that creative kind of inspiration. Is that a process that you have kind of figured out, or is that something that you literally just wait until it happens and you go, right, drop everything, I'm going to the studio or I'm going to the back room?
You know, the odd thing is I always have ideas. There's always something I want to make. There's never, and by the way, we were talking about it before. I start with an empty template. The most boring thing, an empty template, you have no sound, nothing generates sound. But either you go in with a curiosity, you have some kind of idea. What if I do this? What if I try to, for example, one day I was thinking about what would happen if I would take sine waves, pan one to the left, one to the right, and put like binaural sound waves in the back, one to the left, one to the right, and make them wiggle at different speeds, and then put them together. What would happen? So in my mind, there was a sound that might happen, but what came out wasn't actually that useful. But I got my answer. So it's pure curiosity. What would happen? So you get these ideas from you're just thinking about like different methods of sound design, and you get these ideas and you try them out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I tried to create, for example, my own reverb using just delays.
Oh, wow.
Delays that were set to different speeds. So I created the whole chain of the delays. Well, in Fruity Loops, you can do that really easily using Patcher. And what came out was a unique delay sound that probably no one has, and a few of my sounds already use that. So whenever I feel like I can jump in and I can change the settings and I can make a sound.
That's awesome.
And also, actually, we were talking about guitar amps before. One guy had this idea to use 50 amps and record the sounds that came from 50 amps, like in a church or a recording studio where they were.
Yeah.
And for example, I thought, what if I tried to do this in my computer, use like 50 amps? First of all, my CPU couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I was going to say that's going to have your computer on its knees.
Yeah, it did definitely. But the sound that it didn't work. But it was a curiosity. What if I tried to do it in software? In software, it didn't work, but in real life, it did, using 50 amps.
Yeah, I mean, the approach of experimentation is a really interesting one. You know, I spend a lot of my time at the moment, a lot of my free time, I'm spending messing with wet dry, which is where you'll have an amplifier that has no effects running through it, so no, you know, a completely clean sound, and then a split amplifier with all of your wet sounds, so your delay, your reverb, any modulation. And you can do the same with kind of any effects, so whether it be fuzz or distortion or overdrive or whatever. And what you have is kind of an articulation of the note whilst also retaining that effect.
Yeah.
And I saw Corey Wong do it, and I was kind of like, that's really cool. I'm really interested. So do you take inspiration from kind of your heroes in that respect, or your friends even, or is it all kind of generated in your mind?
I would say I've been doing it for quite a long time. It's 18 years. So when I started, there were no tutorials. There wasn't even a YouTube. So this is the funny part. So I learned to actually use effects and everything myself. And for me, generating ideas, it just comes so naturally. I don't know. It's just out of pure curiosity. Can I make this? Can I make that? For example, can I make my own reverb? And I recently learned to make my own reverb with I can't say the effects right now, the name of it. Ensembles, kind of a chorusy effect. Slightly different. So I was able to make a reverb using that alone. Oh yeah, actually I was wrong. Yeah, it's I said ensembles. It's chorus. Of course, it's chorus. Well, they're the same thing basically, but some manufacturers call it ensembles. So of course, I wasn't sure what it's called in the Vital synthesizer. So you can make your own reverb here. There doesn't sound like a usual reverb, but it sounds a little bit different. And I think you can use that, or maybe even create your own impulse response samples out of it, and then use actual reverbs to further, for example, recording impulse responses that don't sound like natural. You can use this method to create one. And add layers and layers on top of it. So I actually do have a lot of impulse response samples that I've created myself as well. Hopefully someday either it's going to come out as a plugin, or maybe we can use them in Contact some way. But these are really interesting sounds.
What so you mentioned that you started about 18 years ago. When I spoke to Marcos Siska on this podcast, he mentioned that he began with Akai samplers, and he was just messing around with them, and he was inputting everything manually. Was that the same for you, or were you doing something different? What kind of software or hardware were you using?
I actually started with EJ. You remember that?
I don't know.
Yeah, EJ. It was basically like ready samples or loops made ready, and you just kind of stack them on top of each other, and you build this track, and you would have like music that you could call your own, basically. But it was a great tool to learn how a track is. What does it consist of? For example, drums, bass, lead, vocals, and how to actually build a track. And then as time goes by, you learn more about the little things. Now I'm busting my head about how to make the perfect kick drum, for example. What does it consist of? How does it move? How do the frequencies move and evolve? Making snare drums is actually, making good snare drums is really hard, actually.
I think it's really important that you say that your earliest experiences weren't in how to sample, but how to create a track.
Yeah.
Your earliest experiences weren't, this is the process I need to sample a violin, but was actually, this is what a song consists of. Because without, I wouldn't go as far as to say that a song has to have drums, bass, guitar, and vocals, for example. Although most indie songs or rock songs or pop songs would, but it's to say that education is the beginnings of what is frequency education. Of that you need low end, mid range, and treble.
Yeah.
To create a full space of sound. And I think that's something that a lot of people kind of skip over. A lot of people will go into, I've written these really cool lyrics and I want to put a beat behind them, and they'll put percussion and they'll put bass behind it, but they don't use the full range of frequency.
Yeah.
Do you think that kind of sets you apart a little bit with regards to your education?
Well, I'm not even that sure. Nowadays we have so much material out there, so many tutorials, and that there are tutorials about everything. So whatever it is you like to make, for example, if you like to go into music creation and use your favorite software, you can find somebody who has a tutorial about anything. You can create trap beats quite easily, for example, and these are so popular for some reason. Don't get me wrong, I like trap sounds, but it's not the hardest music to make and learn.
Is that a bad thing? I read
no.
I listened to a speech that John Mayer gave at the Oxford Union, where he talked about when he was born, the songs that were at #1 were so much more musically and technically difficult than they are now.
Yeah.
And he had to kind of synthesize his desire to make complex, difficult, challenging music to satisfy his own musicality, as well as making easily digestible, not so difficult to make kind of 4-chord songs to that would go viral, or that would go to #1.
Yeah. The thing about, for example, you mentioned trap, and the problem with it is easy to make, and you have so many people who are doing it and they are sounding exactly the same. The moment you actually create everything based upon a tutorial only, and you're not really putting yourself into it, is well, first of all, it doesn't have any meaning at all. You're just creating sound that sounds exactly the same as the tutorial, and everybody is kind of sounding the same. So I was actually lucky not to have YouTube when I started. YouTube came like 2006. I started a few years before that, and the first tutorials about my DAW came out maybe 2009 or 10, but I already was quite deep into it already. So yeah, I think it's a big part, because some of the music that I do, there are really no tutorials. For example, a 1950s James Bond casino chase scene or whatever, or some I can't probably pronounce that right. So some little creatures running around, like fuzzy little creatures, and what would the music sound like? And
gnomes.
Gnomes. Yeah. I created a track that is like ethnic Indian, or not like India. Are there Indians, or is it like in India? Indian.
Well, if you're talking about it being from India, it would be Indian.
Yeah, Indian. So, but you don't have any tutorials. At least I think you don't have any tutorials out there that kind of explain how to create Indian music. But yeah, but if we're talking about Native Americans, I have a few projects that I never really exported or made.
Yeah. Sorry, just to clarify, are we talking about from India or from Native America?
Now we're talking about both, actually.
Right.
So
okay.
I have been interested in both.
Yeah.
I may have made tracks using that sound similar to both of them, actually.
How do you reconcile your own kind of cultural heritage with creating sounds from other cultures? Because it's not to say that we shouldn't, but it must be kind of a little bit difficult to kind of approach Native American music and do it justice when you're not Native American, no?
Yeah, that's a relatively good point. So I would say you kind of create this music that has a lot of hints to those styles. For example, when I create the Indian type of music, I use like large drums that they wouldn't usually use, but I use them because I thought it would sound great. But the normal person would definitely listen to it. It sounds like travel music, so it's through a spectrum of my own spectrum that I can create, because Indian music can be really complex. The way they sing, they have like many more notes. We have like in an octave 12 notes. If I remember correctly, they have like twice or more even.
Yeah, I think it's 20.
They go really
I think,
microtonal.
yeah.
So it's really, really hard and really difficult actually. And it seems like that when they play the drums, they just kind of randomly kind of hit there. You can they have a whole system, and I think their music changes even when the time of the day changes or something like that. I've read about something like that, like more than 10 years ago.
It's one of the reasons that I'm a really big fan of Norah Jones. Are you familiar with Norah Jones?
Maybe I've heard the name, but
so it's a somewhat little known fact that Norah Jones is Ravi Shankar's daughter.
Ravi Shankar. I need to Google
Ravi Shankar was the guru that the Beatles went to visit to stay with in India, and that taught them to play the sitar.
Yeah, I see. The sitar is a really great instrument, and I was able to actually synthesize a sitar sound.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think Trails uses probably a bunch of synthesized sitar sounds so they originate from sources. It's funny how a synthesizer can sound like a real live instrument. That's so crazy. I do think it happened mostly by accident. It probably started to sound like a sitar. So, okay, I'm going to take it to that direction. I'm going to make it a sitar. If it wants to sound like a sitar, fine. Let's make it a sitar.
Yeah, 100%. But this is it, is that, microtonal music has filtered its way into Western canon. Lo-fi is one of the most popular genres of music in existence at the moment. I love lo-fi. Lo-fi is what after this interview, I'm gonna go back to work and I'm gonna put on chilled beats to study / relax to, and I'm gonna pass into Nirvana. But lo-fi is by nature microtonal. It is by nature in between, major and minor notes within the Western octave, yes, but it's not within it because it's microtonal. Do you think that there's a relation there? Do you think that the microtonal influence of the wider Indian octave has filtered into lo-fi somehow? Because Indian music is often within the Western canon associated with meditation or spiritualism.
I actually hope that many more things would leak more from there, because the rhythms are just crazy that they're able to produce. For example, take an Indian drum and play it the same way using a different kind of maybe an African drum, for example. You get a different feel, different sound. So yeah, I definitely, their singing is also really interesting. We use a lot of auto-tune, and it kind of takes away this kind of live feeling from the vocals, actually. The auto-tune. I mentioned trap music, which uses quite a lot of auto-tune.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so I hope that the control over the voice kind of comes back, and I think future vocals will be more alive than a lot of the artists today have. There was a very famous female singer. Should I say her name?
Yeah.
Rihanna? Yeah, I think fabulous singer, but her voice sounded at some period like it's coming from an auto-tune. It's like just easy notes that you can sing along with, but I'm like, why are you wasting your talent? She could be.
I mean, it's authenticity in music is something that I spend a lot of time talking about on this show, because I think it's the elephant in the room. A lot of people will listen to music and go, I love this artist because they're so great, when actually it took 8 people to write that pop song, and 3 different studio engineers to make it sound good. Whereas I think a lot of people on the flip side of that, a lot of people stifle their own creativity because they don't allow themselves to enhance their own sound. A lot of people will be in one corner or the other, where they'll use auto-tune as a prime example to to an excess, and it'll sound like it's not them, and it'll sound like it's inauthentic, or they'll refuse to use it point blank, so that even the tiniest little aberrations in their voice that are normal, they won't kind of clean up. Do you think there's a place for auto-tune in music and in sampling?
Oh, well, definitely. I've used autotune in many crazy ways. I think I used something like autotune like just a few days ago, but I'm not sure why I used it. Oh yeah, I wanted to create like this spaceship vocals, like oxygen levels at 55%.
Yeah.
So I wanted to create. So I made these like a few days ago. So probably autotune. I was trying to just experimenting. I had in mind like, what if the main frequency of the voice is just in between two notes, and it kind of flutters in between two notes? Can I make it flutter in between them?
Oh,
and
cool.
Would it give like an artifact? So you don't have to use it as a main effect, but you can use a different bus or different channel where you can further process it or make it like sound more glitchy afterwards. So you have your main vocals, and you can have the vocal run through another channel kind of and process it in a weird way.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the direction that music has gone over the last 20 to 30 years has democratized it. You know, I know that we were talking about the previous podcast episode that came out a little while ago, where we discussed how different music is now that it's in the hands of the creator. It's now much easier to make music than it was 20 years ago. But I wonder whether with the increasing quantity, there has become less new thing. It's more rare to hear something new.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I think these days people maybe want the fame a bit more than they want to create something that comes from the heart.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But why I'm saying that is, it kind of seems like there are certain buttons you can press. For example, the millennial whoop, but create some ooh that people can sing along to, and use the, I don't know, 4 chords, the 4 pop chords, and you already have something that sounds great. And create a melody, for example, create a melody, take any Ed Sheeran song, listen to what the main melody is, change the notes. And they're doing it. But I think, okay, you're making a hit song using those buttons you can press to make a hit song, but along the way you're forgetting maybe yourself, to put yourself into it. What is your message? What do you want to carry? For example, melodies.
What's your message then?
What my message? Just listen to your subconsciousness. What do you want to do? Where I have an 88 key keyboard on the on my table. When I create melodies, I don't have a plan when I start playing. I'm just putting my fingers on. Maybe there's a piano or another sound, whatever I feel like, and I start to kind of find what resonates more with what I want to do. But yeah, actually, sometimes I do use those nasty tricks too. I'm gonna be honest with you. But you basically have to sometimes, because if you're being 100% original, you are likely not going to get any attention, or it's going to be really difficult. So creating sounds, I've been really lucky. There are some of the names who have bought the instruments on some of the names are really when they are buying your product, you see what you're making the sounds for, and they're
Mm.
seeing something that they don't maybe see in other products. And I do think when you put yourself into every single sound, and not yourself, it's not like an egoistic thing. I do think like you and me, we are the same. Our experiences are different in this world. Our subconscious works the same mostly. When we feel heartbroken, we will resonate. If I'm writing, if I'm in love and I write music, it will probably resonate with you. If I want to feel afraid, for example, thinking about space again and aliens and stuff like that, I need to be afraid when what I'm creating makes me feel like uneasy, or makes me feel afraid, or what is going on. And I do think if you're writing and you're being really honest in what you do and what you create, it will resonate with someone. And if you're being really original, it has a chance to resonate with someone, but it has a hard time resonating with everyone, because not musicians will probably, when they hear a sound, they probably have a switch somewhere. One sound is beautiful there. Yeah, I can use this there. Or there, I can totally see me using it there. Another sound is like really tensed, like I made tried to recreate this Joker sound, like where the tension like rises, and you can see yourself using it in other place. So you have to switch, but regular people sometimes not like regular people. We're all regular people. Non-musicians, let's say.
We're all individuals. I'm not.
Yeah, yeah. but sometimes I play some of my sounds to my wife, and she is like, "Why did you make this sound? It's not beautiful." But we musicians see that the use of that sound, it could be used in other occasions. Right now, maybe in my living room, it doesn't really sound like beautiful when I'm trying to do something scary, for example. But yeah, musicians probably see that. Oh yeah, I can totally use that in my next horror movie soundtrack.
So we talk about being authentic. That's a core part of what you do. It is entirely inspirationally driven. It's entirely emotionally driven. It resonates. What comes next for Ergo Kukke?
Oh, I have so many projects. I have so many ideas. For example, I'm just looking at the folder. I have a drum pack. Just has single shot drum sounds. There are 808s in there. You can make your trap beats if you want, but every single sound has some unique feature to it. An epic pack, which is probably going to be something like an apocalyptic hits, a big hits or something like that. There's an FX pack. I might combine maybe the effects packs that I have already made with the future ones to reduce the amount of instruments that I release and make just the future releases like bigger. But theoretically, they're ready and waiting. Keys and one shots, so multi-sampled instruments. We have inside, we have like action bass, we have analog synthesizers, we have bells, we have some sound design instruments, analog leads. We have some more classical instruments too. For example, we have a trance songs that you can use to create, like for example, the mass or the mass layer of the synth lead, and you can add your own synth on top of it, but it will carry the mass. So it's super useful, but now you don't have to recreate it all the time or use a bunch of synthesizers that gonna use up a lot of your CPU. So I made that because I sometimes like to create trance music, but mostly I create it just for myself. I never put it out there, you know. We have mallets. So these are keys and one shots. So of course, melodies, bass, MIDI. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm supposed to use or put these out there. Maybe because I don't have the MIDI to all the melodies, and all the basses don't kind of correlate with the melodies. So maybe it's going to be an extra pack, or buy this and get this one for free or something. But I'm still trying to figure out what way to go. And what I'm really happy about, there will be, hopefully, it's going to be maybe hard to do, but most of the sounds are already ready. A synthesized orchestra.
Oh,
yeah,
that's exciting.
Yeah, and they're going to be church organs that are purely generated using synthesizers.
So the answer to what does Ergo Kukke have coming up is a lot.
A lot, and there is a lot more that I didn't mention. So there's going to be a rhythmic instrument, probably aleatoric rhythms too, and AMM too. Yeah, and
when can we expect
a
these?
Space pack.
When can we expect them?
So I'm thinking about maybe next year. So there are a lot of sounds that I'm still building. For example, the space pack is a process, and I think I will have to probably combine some of the instruments and use a lot of. I'm trying to figure out how exactly, but I do think like most of the packs that I mentioned are going to be released in the next 2 years. But the next instruments that we plan to get out is actually the apocalyptic big hits. Hopefully, and then hopefully I want to get out keys and one-shot instruments, so you can combine them hopefully the same way as with aleatoric metamorphic movement, where you can combine multi-sampled instruments with just one-shot instruments, and this will create a wonderful colorful layer. And awesome. I do think it's going to be inspiring.
Incredible. Well, I think there is the point where we call it. But Ergo, it's been genuinely inspiring listening to you speak. You have so much passion and so much joy that you associate with sampling and creating. I could listen to you all day.
Thank you.
But we would probably run out of time for the rest of the things that we have to do in our lives. So
yeah, maybe another interview in a few years. Maybe.
Yeah, perhaps so.
Once all those projects are actually out.
You let me know when you've got something ready to release, and we'll talk again.
Yeah, hopefully drums, baby kids, maybe in a few months or so.
Yeah, ideal. You let me know. Either way, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.